Well, hey everybody, this is Jen, and thank you for taking time out of your day to spend a few minutes with me. First, I would like to introduce myself and a little bit about something that I have in my life and what I have done about it, and I think it might be a great help to you. First of all, I live out in the country and I'm a wife and a mother of 5. And living in the country, gardening and doing various things that you would do out in a meadow, I have succumbed to a tick-borne illness called Alpha Gal syndrome. And some say it's an allergy, some say it's a syndrome, but I know that it's life-changing, and it certainly has changed my life. I'm not exactly sure when I came down with it. I could have had this as much as 25 years ago. But my system was very strong and I was young. And I believe as a result, if I've had it that long, that I've put myself in a remission state for several years at a time along the way. And with each year that I would be exposed to ticks and I would get new ticks, then my sensitivities would come back. And if my body wasn't at its optimal health and I was not eating well, not sleeping well, very stressed out, and getting tick bites, then I would tend to succumb to more and more symptoms and issues with having that type of allergy syndrome. And so finally, when it got at its worst and I officially got diagnosed, was about 3 years ago. And when I first got diagnosed, there wasn't a lot of talk about it. It was very unknown and really wasn't tested for. I fell upon it through a lot of research on my own. Went to an allergist, was having different allergy tests done, and also went to a doctor and was having lots of different blood work ran just to try to find out what was going on with my body, why I was gaining weight, why I wasn't sleeping, why I was having sensitivities to foods that I had never had before, and just really problematic for me. And so I sought the doctors. They didn't really come up with everything, gave me a clean bill of health for the most part, but yet I was still very, very sick. And so with that, I started having double over stomach pains when I would have a cup of coffee that had creamer in it. Or times I would just double over and not really know what I did or why. So basically, when I finally got diagnosed with the Alpha Gal allergy, the positivity to that particular carbohydrate sugar that is found in mammal meat. And so what happens is the tick gets on a deer or a host, and as they are feeding on the blood carries proteins and carbohydrates. Most allergies that people have are allergies to the proteins, but in this specific instance, the body of the tick imparts that carbohydrate from the mammal meat into the human host. And when that happens, the body sees that as now a foreign object because it's coming externally through the skin, not through the gut, to the body. And the body is recognizing it as a foreign invader. And so then it sets up an allergy to this carbohydrate. And so what does that do to the body of the person carrying now this imparted allergy to the carbohydrate? Well, what happens is most generally it makes people have anaphylactic episodes. And there's a myriad of episodes, or shall I say symptoms, of anaphylactic response. Some is the most known way that people associate anaphylaxis is with the throat closing up and the inability to breathe or swallow, which requires immediate medical intervention within minutes, such as an EpiPen or getting immediately to the emergency room. And the other thing is slighter anaphylactic episodes, but just as troubling: blood pressure drops, pulse rate drops. You could have a pulse rate increase to a very high level, dizziness, fogginess, stomach aches, cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, confusion. You can have agitation, sleeplessness, hives, itching, rash, weight gain. The list goes on. A lot of things are a culmination of more than one anaphylactic response. So you could have multiple things happening at the same time, a myriad of symptoms with an anaphylactic episode, and maybe, and many times, often without having your throat close up and the need for an EpiPen. But certainly, digestive enzymes, stuff like quercetin, bromelain, and vitamin C, or the traditional over-the-counter antihistamine, internal and external, hydrocortisone creams, as well as avoidance become your best friend to subdue the chances of having anaphylactic reactions. But even for some of us that don't have major anaphylactic reactions, the body is still under a fight or flight. It is still inflamed and bothered by things that we take in by our mouth or touch topically or breathe through vapors, any mammal or mammal byproducts. That means steam that contains dairy, cheese, butter. We're talking any red meats. That means any mammal products. Mammals are animals that suckle their young. They're not birthed from an egg, such as live birth from an egg, meaning a fowl or a fish comes out as a full-fledged living being when it cracks through the shell. A human, on the other hand, an egg transforms into a living being, and same with mammal. Mammals suck their young, meaning they nurse with their breast milk their young. Fish and fowl do not. So that's how you distinguish. Some people with Alpha Gal have sensitivities to dairy, but not meat. Some have sensitivities to meat, but not dairy. Some have sensitivities to some red meat, but not other red meats. So really it is bio-individual, case by case. It depends on what your immune system's like, what your environment's like, what you're exposed to, what your stressors are. Really dictates a lot on how your body handles this allergy. If you're full of candida, you're toxic, you don't move a lot, your lymphatic system is slow, you will probably not fare as well having this type of syndrome. When you go and you clean up your diet and you let your body have a rest from the fight or flight, you get rid of all the offenders. That means you don't ingest any mammal products, you don't cross-contaminate utilizing kitchenware, kitchen surfaces, refrigerator space that has these things in the same close proximity. And you also don't go into places where they're cooking steaks and things, frying them with butter and getting all the vapors airborne. And then you also be careful with what you put on your body in ways of shampoo, makeup, skin creams, ointments, any internal medications that you might take to make sure that they do not have a byproduct of glycerin, collagen, gelatin, magnesium stearate, which could be mammal or vegetarian source. So you're going to need to know your sources of things that might share a common source, where like magnesium stearate or glycerin could be mammal based, it could be vegetable based. So when you get those ingredients, you want to make sure that they're not using a mammal source. When you're using things such as sugar, then you have to think about, how is that sugar processed? Is it organic? Is it processed utilizing bone char, which they do in industrializing manufacturing process of cane sugar? They will put it through bone char as part of their production and manufacturing. So you want to know where your sources come from. And so really the safest way to go is to buy whole foods and cook them in your own home, utilizing unshared utensils with the rest of your family. If you can get mammal products out of your house for a period of time, let your family go out to fast food restaurants or sit down restaurants and eat their mammal outside the home. Wash up when they come home so they don't cross-contaminate by touching surfaces. You might want to stop wearing leather on your shoes where it goes directly up into your feet, wool socks, stuff like that. And just be really cautious for a period of time. Get really, really clean. Take proper nutrients. Eat a good, nutritious food. And let your body recalibrate. Kill the candida if you've got it. Get off the sugar sources. Let that die out in your system. Take probiotics, fermented foods so that you can get a good balance. maybe get on some low histamine diet. A lot of foods liberate a histamine response in the body. Certain berries, nightshades, pickled foods, certain things like that can liberate. Beans, they can also exacerbate candida and help it to grow, make the conditions more favorable for it. And I find that when you remove all these things, you give your body a better foundation for getting modulated so that it doesn't overreact. I found myself in such a toxic position. Not only was I allergic to mammal, after I had my testing done, I found that my body, because I was continuing to get mammal and topically and internally, that it made me so hypersensitive that things that were very low offenders in my life became very dominant offenders. So I was allergic to nuts and seeds now that I had always eaten my whole life. I was highly, highly allergic to grasses and trees and pollens and berries and nightshades and things that I normally wouldn't have a problem. Lots of grains I was allergic to. So I ended up on a diet with very minimal amounts of food. I had rice, I had oats, I had fruits and vegetables, and that was about it for an entire year. It took me to recalibrate my body and to kill off the candida that made me more vulnerable, to beef up my immune system, and to drop the weight that was holding the toxins and storing things that my body couldn't handle, maybe perhaps from some of the mammal. And so with that, I just knew that I never wanted to be on medication, because a lot of times you go into the hospital or the emergency room and lo and behold, their stuff is riddled with mammal ingredients. When I first went to the allergist, they gave me antihistamines, they gave me H1 and H2, which is internal abdominal stomach antihistamines to what you take in. It blocks the histamine reaction in the gut. And then there was, for external allergens, you take your other antihistamines. And then they gave me, of course, an EpiPen, an inhaler, all these different things to help calm down my allergy response. But every single one of them had mammal ingredients. So I could take none of them. So I didn't take any antihistamines of any kind for a year and a half. Then I went back and got retested. Well, I should preface this. My doctor told me to go off of red meat. He never told me to go off of dairy, even though it showed a slight allergy. I think he was not educated well enough to know that all mammal is an offender to a person carrying alpha gal. Even if you don't get anaphylactic, your body's still going to war and seeing that as an offender, even if you have a very, very mild or what seems like no symptom. So what happened was, for a whole year, I went off of red meat, but not dairy products such as cheese, milk, ice cream, sour cream, yogurt, those butter. And when I went back for my testing a year later, my levels of alpha gal were higher in my body. Albeit I might have been bit by another tick or two, which can also elevate those numbers if you get rebitten. It can make you more sensitive quicker. The more bites you get, the more sensitive, the faster you get sensitivity and the greater degree. So you have to be very, very careful and vigilant on not getting bit by another tick. Due diligence in protecting yourself against that threat. So once I got my second testing done, I realized I was so much more allergic and sensitive even after a year of no red meat. I took the situation under my own control, did my own research. I did start antihistamines because I needed to quiet my system down even greater, as I had not lost much weight, so I knew my body was still raging inside from getting all the dairy, and I was still very sensitive. Started making my own body care, and then developed a body care line for alpha gal people in mind, just because of all the hidden things that we don't realize, that we're constantly partaking of mammal without realizing it, and causing our body distress and inflammation. And so then I realized that I did not want to be in a position to go to a hospital. So I bare-boned, I took all of the histamine liberating foods out of my diet. I lowered my histamine bucket, and what a histamine bucket means is the least amount of histamine response that your body goes through by what you take in or what you're exposed to. Allows your body to gain strength, so when you are exposed to something, the reaction down the road won't be as great. And so what I had to do was to remove everything, to recalibrate my body, to empty that histamine bucket so that I was more tolerant of offenders in the future, allow my body to lose the weight that helps to keep you sick and more vulnerable and more sensitive to foods, and more toxins are within the fat cells. And so over a year, I had dropped 60 pounds from changing my diet and getting the offenders out. My body just released all that and purged it all out. And I continued on the allergy medicine. It was a children's Zyrtec, no mammal in it, no colors or anything like that, just pretty pristine for antihistamine. And then I didn't get any cross-contaminations in my home. I didn't have food cooking in my home for 99% of the time. No mammal ingredients were cooked in my home. But I can't say that there was none, because there was some, but I was just very, very careful. If I used the oven, I covered my food, so when it was in there, it wasn't getting oils and vapor onto it, saturated with mammal. I don't use the microwave, and if I did heat something in the microwave, I would put a silicone cover over the top, and so that's how I handled that. I was very careful to change all my family's body products to mammal-free as well. Put the soaps that I made for my husband, I put in the shower, really pristine stuff. What my husband used, because he touches me and he kisses me, mammal-free toothpaste, as best you can. On the days when he's been exposed to mammal, he's been working with animals, he showers, changes his clothes, comes to bed, so he's clean and free of mammal interaction in our bed, so I'm not having responses in the night. If he has ingested mammal, we go 24 to 48 hours without intimacy, just because it's believed that a lot of people, and myself included, that I've had reactions in my body after being intimate, after he has consumed mammal, if it's been within the first 24 hours or so, and how much quantity he's eaten. If he's been eating cheese and meat and dairy, you certainly want to make sure that they're brushing their teeth well before you're kissing them. They've washed their face and got the oils and greases off their mouth. So there's really a lot to be considered when you have Alpha Gal. It is not for whims, and it is very devastating and life-changing for the individual who has it, and also for the family members. I needed an advocate because I'm on the road much of the time by myself, or I'm alone at home. I never wanted to be caught off guard without the ability to speak or to say what's going on with me, because if an emergency medical team got a hold of me and they look at me and they see symptoms of anaphylactic, and their first go-to is give her an EpiPen, give her antihistamines, give her these medications, not knowing that I'm allergic to mammal, then I may have some problems there, and life-threatening medical intervention has happened to me. And I didn't want that to happen. So what I did, and I wear these at all times, you can see I have them in red and black. They never come off my body. They're on me 24 hours a day. And I have created these for men, women, and children with all the pertinent information that you could hope to want to be sharing with the medical team or anybody that might come upon you if you're out on the road, you're driving, let's say you go off the road because you've had an anaphylactic episode and you have a standbyer that needs to know what they can do for you and what's happening. And so on the insides of this band, and these are made in large and small, and black and red, on the outside of the band, it says Alpha Gal Allergy with a medical symbol. And I've made these in red to get the medical attention right away if you were in need, okay? And then it says topical or internal mammal exposure may require EpiPen, exclamation point. So when a medical team sees Alpha Gal Allergy, they may not know what that is. I would say 90% of the medical field has never heard of Alpha Gal Allergy, and they have no clue what it is, what it does to you, and what not to do to you if they come in contact with you when they're treating you. And so that's why I put on there to be my advocate right on the front. I have this allergy, and if you're going to treat me, don't use any of these things. Okay, and then on the inside, in case the band ever gets flipped around, because they can do that once in a while. I've had it happen a dozen times over the last 3 years, not very often, but it can happen. And on the inside, it says, for safety, topical or internal ingredients should be mammal-free. Should be. Because if your life depended on, should I give you mammal when you're in medical treatment, and I can do things to keep you from dying even though I've given you mammal. Well, you want to tell them absolutely do not ever give me mammal. You want to say should, and then leave that up to the medical team, because if they do give you something mammal, then they're already prepared in their mind that they're going to have to offset that, and that they are capable of doing that. So that's why I just said, if you give me mammal, it may require an EpiPen. Not all times, you know, and that's the thing with the Alpha Gal allergy. One day you can eat red meat and you're fine. Next day you might eat red meat and you're fine. And then a week later you eat it and you're anaphylactic. And then a week later you eat it and you're fine. It's a Russian roulette, and that's why we are encouraged to not even go there. Don't even participate in it. Completely get off it, and then continue to get retested by the medical allergy department or doctor's office to make sure that your Alpha Gal numbers are low to 0 and you're in remission by having blood and topical and ingesting allergy test challenges done with mammal before you ever just decide on your own merit to go ahead and start consuming this again. A lot of people are testing this out on their own, and I tell you, I would never ever partake in mammal, even with an EpiPen with me, because EpiPens are not always safe. It depends on your age, your constitution, what's happening in your body. It could be life-threatening to you as well. So that's why they say if you take an EpiPen, get to an emergency room. You can't just say, I took an EpiPen, I'm all good, because your heart rate goes way up. You could have a heart attack. I mean, things could happen. Other things can happen in your body. So you want to make sure if you ever take an EpiPen, you get straight to the emergency room. If you're going to do a food challenge, I would encourage you as well. Go sit in the emergency waiting room, eat that food, and stay there for the next 6 to 10 hours. Just kind of be there. Stay in a hotel right next to the hospital. Stay at the hospital all day long by the emergency room, because some people's reaction comes in 15 minutes, some 30 minutes, some 3 hours, some 6 hours, some 12 hours. So you want to have 12 hours kind of near an emergency room, certainly if you're going to eat the red meat. But I would say for anything, I would never try to do that on my own. Heck, I'm even nervous about doing it with the allergist in an allergist office where they can treat me, because I don't want to feel what it feels like to go anaphylactic with your throat closing up and need an EpiPen and have your heart go through the roof like it's going to explode on you. Nor do I want a heart attack just for the sake of having to try to eat the mammal so I can get it back in my life, and then I get an EpiPen, and then I have a heart attack and I die, all for the sake of my pleasure of my palate. It's not worth it to me. I just as soon not eat it, but I can't speak for everybody, but I am just saying, be very, very cautious and approach it with a lot of finesse and wisdom in protecting your life, because that's really what it's all about. You didn't suffer for a long time with the Alpha Gal just to fly by the seat of your pants on trying to get back into eating mammal again. And don't think because you ate it and you tried it one day and you're like, success, oh, I'm good, no reaction, that you can just go out and eat it the next day and not be in the hospital. So every day you eat it for the rest of your life, you've got to assume that you could have a reaction and be prepared. Always have your EpiPen, always have allergy medication like Benadryl, non-mammal ingredients. You don't want to exacerbate by putting mammal on mammal exposure. But anyway, I made these out of concern for myself, out of concern for others, out of knowing that people are vulnerable and could need an advocate, and there's just not enough knowledge out there in the real world. Take a break for a while, and so I'm back to continue on with the video. So basically, I didn't want to get caught off guard with my Alpha Gal out in public and not have an advocate for me in time of need. So I designed these bands, which come in a self-seal wrap. And as I said, they come double-sided, very economical, very durable. Like I said, I've been wearing mine for a few years now, and they're just as good as the first day that I put them on. And much conversation comes out of these bands, and people ask me what's on my band, and then I get to tell them a story and continue to broaden the knowledge of those who would be ignorant to the Alpha Gal, and especially in the area where people are getting bit by these ticks, which is in my local area. And so I provide these in the continental US, and free shipping comes along with those. And I wear two, so that if I'm out and about and I come across somebody that has Alpha Gal and they do not have a medical alert band on them, then I can simply remove one and give one away. Male or female, doesn't matter, as long as they're relatively the same size. Even if you put a large purse, there is some room in there. And really, you don't know that you have them on. You never feel them. I never feel them. And I sleep on them, I shower with them, I never remove it off of my person. So I hope that you would find this allergy band to be a great advocate for you, and a good design that is solid and stands time and testing, and also speaks for you everything you would want to convey to somebody that should find you in trouble. And so with that, visit my website. You'll find these at wilddandelion.soaps.com, or on my Etsy store, Wild Dandelion Soaps LLC, or my Etsy store, Rawkin Spirit, R-A-W-K-I-N Spirit. And we'll get those right out to you. I typically receive an order. I try my best to deliver it that same day, and certainly within 24 hours, I will have that out in the mail so that you can get your advocate band on you, helping to be a mouthpiece for you and somewhat of a comfort and protection against an offender of a mammal intervention should you fall and succumb to an anaphylactic episode. So with that, subscribe to my Facebook channels. I've got Alpha Gal support products, Alpha Gal trekkies. I have Alpha Gal Chef in 30 minutes or less, and Alpha Gal Success, where I upload videos with body care and recipes and studies and just information. Some of these sites are groups and interactive, and people can post questions, and I'll get back to you on anything that's personal as soon as I can. And so feel free to join those. You can follow me on Instagram, Alpha Gal Success, Wild Dandelion Soaps. And I wish you well. Pray great success for you. I am a holistic health coach that's certified, and I have had this, like I said, for many, many years, I believe. And I have refined and perfected a plan for my life that has caused me to flourish. In the face of Alpha Gal, I am really, for the most part, desensitized for the contact that I would come in day to day without actually consuming the product. And I find that to be of great comfort to know that I can acclimate and intersect with the real world out there and what their practices are in the mammal realm, and be able to fellowship and socialize with the people that walk the planet with us. So with that, God bless, make it a great day. If you want to have some personal health coaching for Alpha Gal Success, or any success in boosting the immune system, losing weight, finding a lifestyle plan that works for you, that's bio-individual, where I listen to your body's needs and I hear your story and your obstacles, and I help develop a plan for success for you, so that you can flourish and thrive and have an abundant, great life. And on that note, happy eating. Be well, be blessed, stay protected with your advocate.